So, thinking about what you were saying about these young doctors and her knowing what they were going to go and find at your grandfather. My father did keep a diary.
Yes, not that anyone can actually read it.
Because his handwriting is so appalling. You know that joke about doctors having really bad handwriting? Yeah. It's really hard to read, but it's just about possible. And obviously he was writing it sort of in odd times, in between when there was a lull or he had a little bit of respite and
quickly try and catch up and
it was all sort of like scribbled in these notebooks. But one of the things he was in the war in Italy, and they started in Sicily and worked all the way kind of up Italy, including at Monte Cassino, which is a very sort of famously awful battle. And he writes about the first time he has to do a field amputation.
Gosh.
And that when he was training, they didn't really get. It wasn't like he'd been a surgeon. Do you know what I mean? You just did your basic surgery training, and then
You're expected to just take off
someone's leg. Out, and this was like not in an operating theatre, but in the field, as it were. Yeah, to save someone's life. How scary that was, and the person, he was so thrilled because the person survived.
Yeah, Mary talks a lot about amputations because obviously that was an incredibly common injury, was sort of bomb-related, shrapnel-related wounds to the lower leg. And nursing patients with amputated legs, and she didn't really know anything about it before she started on it. And then finding out about things like phantom pain just from having patients keeping on saying, I've got pain, I've got pain.
You can't have, it's not there. Yes.
And trying to protect them from that, like by putting cradles over the beds to stop there from being blankets there. And
yes, my mother talked about exactly the same thing, that like just almost acting as if the leg was there because they found that easier.
Yeah, to give sort of comfort and reassurance until they were ready to be.
Yeah.
Because often this was done as a complete emergency, and they wouldn't know that they were about to lose a leg.
No, they'd just wake up to it gone.
But the commanding officer being really angry about the fact that she'd put these cradles.
Your battery's low, Tilda, you might want to fix that.
This is Alf. Alfred has arrived.
Hello, Alf.
We're doing cake.
Is this a cake vlog? I thought you did books, Tilda.
We're also talking about a book. We're talking about a very private diary.
No, that's
which is for Non-Fiction November.
Yeah. It sounds like it's a perfect book for a Tilda.
Yeah, like a book that has been designed for me, because I was finding it so interesting. I haven't finished it yet, but it is very, very interesting.
Look at how many note markers she's put in it.
Yeah,
That's too many.
So I was putting tabs in for everything that she says that's interesting about like the war and the impact of the war and sort of the real sort of lived experience of the war.
Yeah. Can I mix cake yet, or is it not done?
It's not that point yet.
We're going to combine it in a minute, and you will get to stir the cake and be lucky.
Good. You can stay to reach the conversation.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, I haven't read the book, so I don't
Neither
know.
has
Well, nor have I, but my mother lived it, so
yeah.
Get me.
Tabs for everything that was interesting was related to sort of nursing and healthcare, and tabs for everything that was linked to sort of her experience as a young woman, so sort of some kind of gender-related issues. So she talks about nursing a woman who had suspected had an illegal abortion, and she talks about looking after children in the fever hospital whose mother was having to go out at night.
To earn enough to keep the family.
Yes, to keep her 5 children who then all had scarlet fever. So I've put tabs for all of those things, and then lots and lots of interesting stuff. I mean, it's real social history, pure social history.
Yes.
Can you help?
Yes, you can help. So I'll tell you what, you can take over with tipping and stirring, and I'm going to prepare the cake tins.
Yeah. So you need the tins to be really well lined and well greased and well lined, because otherwise it will stick and you will not have a cake because it will all be stuck to the tin.
Yeah.
So this is a combination. You're actually explaining how to make this cake.
Yes.
I'm talking about a book.
I said that we're diversifying.
Okay, sure. Let's get combining.
So what are we doing? So we've got the orange juice there that we're going to put into the fruit. Are we going to put that into the fruit? We're not going to put it into there.
No, we're saving that to put into. What do you think? The only thing we haven't put in any is black treacle.
Oh, where are we going to put black treacle?
And we would
just like a tablespoon.
Yeah. There's no black treacle on this recipe. I don't know what you're doing.
We were talking earlier about sort of improvising and having little bits and pieces.
you need an apron?
Radical recipe. Well, Tilda's in my apron, so
you have this apron.
Tilda has the William Morris apron. Everything is beautiful.
William Morris.
Is that arts and crafts then, or?
Yeah, William Morris the arts and crafts movement, isn't he? Gosh, it's very stiff. It's a very odd apron.
It is. Switch. I'm going to be all motherish here and wind up your sleeves because otherwise they'll
No,
get
I'll do it.
cake mixture on them.
They will get cake mixture.
And then that.
I mean, they'll get Alf mixture in the cake rather than cake
Well,
mixture.
yeah,
on
which is
Alf.
not
the actual
good.
problem.
Yeah, it's not a good thing.
Ooh, so I'm
Um,
adding a dessert spoonful of black treacle. That's what I'm doing. Is
Go
that
for
alright?
it. Yes, you might add 2.
Ish.
I think.
And this is purely just for the added flavour. We don't need any more sugar or sweetness. This is just because we want to add some black treacle.
because it makes it all dark and nice.
Yeah.
Or you can
Mostly
use,
aesthetic, isn't it? Really.
or you can use molasses. Well, no, there's this kind of like bitterness. That's not like it's the wrong word. But it's sort of a richness about black treacle. The molassesy sort of element is really nice, isn't it?
Because this cake is otherwise going to be incredibly unrich. Just look at it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it makes up for the fact of using heretical margarine rather than glorious butter.
Yes.
Yes.
Alf's less happy about the adaptations to suit Bo and I's dietary requests.
But Alf, we went to visit the Happy Hens and got the happy eggs. Look, aren't they happy?
They do look they look like very real.
Yes.
They're not metaphorical at all.
Yes,
They
they
got
are.
like speckles and they're different colours and sizes.
That's
Yeah.
it. Now,
So, second tablespoon of black treacle.
treacle. Oh gosh, that looks so nice.
Look at it's very.
Wash your hands.
Okay, so I'm just going to stir this black treacle in.
Oh.
Trying to get back on track here. And then we're going to mix the dry ingredients into the wet
Oh,
ingredients.
I was going to do that.
Oh, well,
Yes, you are.
go be my guest.
I think she was using like the royal we, the family we.
Yes,
Like
the kind of-
one of the team is going to do it.
Actually,
The baking
if I
team.
feed it in and you mix,
Okay.
sort of combo it.
Cool.
So you fold it, you don't whisk it, you sort of fold it. No.
You break a whisk, to be honest.
Yeah, once it gets to this stage. And you can start to smell all of the spices kind of.
What exciting things have you put in this cake that I've missed out on? Any
Sugar.
any spicy, exciting nuts? You know, you've got like some secret macadamias or some sort of...
No macadamia nuts. We've put zest and juice of an orange, haven't we? And Mary talks about having like a monthly orange because the oranges were so rationed and paying like nearly 3 shillings for an orange when she finds a stall with oranges on them. One of her boyfriends, her French resistance boyfriend, spends 3 shillings on an orange for her.
Oh, that's love.
Yeah, devotion.
She didn't marry him.
Well, he went to France to fight in the resistance, and
Oh.
she never heard from him again. So
Probably dead.
Yeah, I think we can
Yeah.
probably conclude he didn't
He
survive.
got by the SS.
yeah, which must have been the case for a lot of the men that she talks about, really,
Yeah.
given the sort of.
Yeah.
One of the interesting.
Well, at least it's World War II, not
Yeah.
World War One.
And actually, there is a point where she rides through Flanders Fields on her way to work in a hospital in Brussels, and she sort of talks about like thinking about that war and thinking about this war, and she goes to the place where the Battle of Waterloo was fought, and she kind of puts this war into the context of previous wars in the area in quite an interesting way. So what are we gonna? Aren't we gonna?
No, I think this is not all going to fit in one bowl.
That is not all going to fit in one bowl.
So we're going to put some of it in this bowl and do two bowls worth.
We would normally mix it all in one big bowl. We can't find the biggest bowl.
It's been eaten by a group.
The groove is eaten. Yeah,
Poltergeist has taken it.
this happens.
I mean, this is going to make a good amount of cake. So I suppose you could theoretically halve it. But why would you
Why?
want less Christmas
Christmas
cake?
cake.
Well, I mean, because presumably you're one of those heretics that don't like it.
And I'll tell you why. And you could use a black treacle spoon.
Oh yes.
Because there's liquid at the bottom and we need to kind of
Even out
be a bit even with the... Yeah. So I was thinking about her French boyfriend
buying her an orange,
and then going to
fighting the resistance.
fighting resistance. And like your grandparents, so they kind of were in love and like quite keen on each other, and they were talking about getting married, but then your grandfather, Cedric, kind of thought that was... Perhaps it was unfair on Peggy because there was a very good
About to die, yeah.
He was about to now move into the Royal Army Medical Corps and go and fight. No, not fight, but
Medic.
be in the as a medic in fighting.
Battlefields, yeah.
High chance of him not surviving, and that he felt it was wrong and unfair to marry a young woman and then she was going to get widowed, and she was really upset because she really liked him, and he decided that they
Couldn't get married.
and of course, like, and she was firmly saying that she'd rather be married to him and lose him than
never have married him at
Never,
all.
yeah.
Never been married at all. But and then they arranged to meet up in the middle of London at Waterloo Station because she was coming up from the sector. They were coming from different hospitals in the sector, and they met under the clock at Waterloo Station, and that's where he proposed. Except that, not being a very romantic kind of person, he said, "Oh, actually, I think maybe we could do it after all." I changed my mind. The thought was there.
It's like that I never met him because he died before I was born, but you can just know exactly what he's like because all of your brothers are like that as well.
Yes. Family traits.
Absolutely. So that was her romantic proposal.
Yeah, maybe there's still time for Mary in this to get.
Yes. Does Mary get married in this?
Well, I've not finished it.
So you don't know yet?
I don't know. I'm in suspense.
Woohoo.
Because she's this young man's proposed to her, but heaven knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about meeting lots of men is that sometimes some that she knew a couple of years ago then suddenly pop up again, and she keeps writing letters. She talks about, like, somebody goes on a long train and she's like, "Oh, I'll miss them terribly. Got home, letters from Peter Vernon." She was very in demand as a young woman, one of the few young women in the whole of Normandy.
Yes. So meanwhile, your grandparents got married on. Now, here's a story. So they were planning to get married.
Yeah.
But he didn't actually have time off. He couldn't just book time off. But then he had embarkation leave. So before you got sent abroad, you got a little bit of leave to see your family before you embarked. So it's called embarkation leave. So they frantically and in a huge hurry arranged the wedding in his embarkation leave. Then it was kind of messed up a bit. So at his permission to leave, was rescinded. But he went to the Canadian commander and pretended that the other one hadn't said he couldn't go and asked him, and he said yes. So he went off, got married. When he arrived back, a few days later, they told him they were going to prosecute him for going absent without leave. They didn't, obviously, because they were about to embark.
We can't embark without our daughter.
Yes. So they had just a few days together when they got married, and then he went off, and they didn't meet again for about 2.5 years. And
she had your oldest brother.
She had a miscarriage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she actually got pregnant in the few days of their honeymoon. She wrote telling him, and he was really excited. And by the time she got the letter back saying, "Oh, how wonderful," she'd had the miscarriage. But they were tough days. Yeah. And then, of course, when he did ultimately come back at the end of the war, he was quite a different person.
Yeah.
I mean, you were talking about PTSD.
Yeah.
And
massively affected.
Yeah. I mean, everyone was affected.